Fear of Life. Written by Andrew Adams and narrated by Chadwick Polson. October 1st. It pains me to admit as a veteran author, but my writing has taken a horribly unproductive turn over the last several months. Between life stresses, personal relationship straining, various health issues, distractions, and general complacency, it has felt nearly impossible to sit down and pay this project the attention it deserves. I have reserved time alone in a cabin on the mountainside, deeply secluded, to finish my novel in the proper state of mind with no outside interference for the first time in months. Having just arrived earlier this evening, I feel that perhaps I should settle in for the night before committing myself to any serious work, even though I am in tune with the transition already. After all, the mind is a serious muscle and must be properly tended to, or the consequences may be dire, particularly for those who earn a living off that muscle. Inside this leather journal, an old family heirloom that has gone unused until now, I will document my time here as a form of writing exercise between working on the novel. Practice, if you will. And practice is everything. I should turn in for the night, as there will be plenty of time to write in my near future. October 2nd. The area surrounding my cabin is appropriately quiet, while the atmosphere inside the home is perfectly conducive to writing, although something just feels off. I have been unable to focus throughout the morning and afternoon, which led me to use the time instead to unpack my belongings and prepare for what lies ahead instead of immediately diving into writing. There is no rushing the process, as is learned by most writers at some point or another in their careers, presumably early on if they are to have much of a career at all. The entire day has felt like someone was watching me from behind. Thus, every task has been accompanied by my staring in various directions multiple times like a madman. This feeling is tough to describe due to the apparently fictional nature of the phenomenon, but regardless of how I feel about it, the thought is difficult to ignore. Now it is evening and my novel is no better off for it, as each keystroke sets off a fire alarm of an echo through the empty house and forcing me to jump with affright at my own actions, darting my eyes frantically around the room to spot this would-be intruder. I suppose my imagination has gotten the best of me, being alone in a strange new environment and coming from a bustling city to this rural hideaway. I expected the adjustment to take time and effort, undoubtedly, though this is a bit rich. As of this entry, I have yet to make any actual progress with my intended writing project, instead jotting down journal logs about my failed attempts to work, yet such is the process of creation. Sometimes feast, sometimes famine. I go through periods lush with ideas, blazing through pages of excellent work at a manic pace, followed by phases where I sit and toil, such as today. Not to worry, the struggle will benefit the overall project. I came here to write an amazing novel, not to write an easy one. That being said, I hope to relax rather quickly and be free from this eerie weight on my shoulders. I suppose neurotic behavior wouldn't be entirely out of character, although this is different from feeling like something is out of whack rather than thinking it. Perhaps it would be best to sit outside on the porch and take in the atmosphere with a glass of whiskey, or 3. Have a bit of play and put off work until tomorrow. October 3rd. Still not relaxed as hoped. Still feel watched. Started writing early this morning, but the exposure is getting to me. The cabin, while providing the ideal backdrop for an isolated writing retreat, also gives off the impression of being a sitting duck while enemies wait to pounce from all sides. The back wall of the house, featuring a typical sliding door, is also surrounded by massive windows stretching 6 feet wide on either side of the slider and 20 feet up to the roof. Sitting inside the cabin at night with the lack of civilization out there feels like life ends at those glass panels, and all sorts of dark entities are peering back without me knowing it. I stare outside and see nothing, returning to my work, losing confidence and looking around again in a panic within a minute. Repeat the process. I have been known to be a control freak in the past, but the thought of sitting here vulnerable and rendered virtually naked while who knows what watches my every move is rather hard to stomach. Because of this, I have moved my base of operations to the basement, no pun intended, where there are no windows. Rationally speaking, drowning myself deeper in writing the actual novel would solve most of my current issues, or just the one issue, actually, which is easier said than done. Burrowing paranoia reaming out my psyche was an unintended side effect of trying to write this book, and it arose at the most inopportune time imaginable. The pitfalls of being a horror author coming home to roost. My imaginative demons run amok. October 4th. I am utterly convinced someone is trying to kill me. There's a figure, I am seeing it everywhere, out every window, in the shadows of every room upstairs while I am up there. Each time I allow myself to be vulnerable, it knows, and that's when it attempts to move on me. Little is this a malevolent agent aware, I am an author and my imagination is stronger than any plot it may conjure. I will not get got by a he or she of inferior intellect. I shall not be bested in games of the mind. I will not let my guard down again. I have stored plenty of food in the basement, for it would be unwise to leave once night has fallen. The process has been the same each time I have ventured out of this room. Shut and lock the door behind me so nothing can follow. Then inspect every nook and cranny of the basement before settling in to write. Once it has been deemed safe and free of invaders, I barricade the door with a set of wood shelves, which would serve as a loud alarm should anyone actually make it through. Admittedly, in that case, I am not sure what I would do. Here I find myself now, burning the midnight oil in my self-imposed dungeon, while the upper floor of my cabin could have anything happening at any given time. Predators, demonic spirits, or otherwise unwelcome guests may be throwing themselves a party on the upper floors at my expense. No matter. I will hide down here in the safety of darkness and this bottle of bourbon, both of which help me cope with the threat and the task at hand. If this book does not get done in a reasonable amount of time, and to a reasonable level of quality, I will then surely be in more trouble than simply having a murderer on my trail. October 5th. Writer's block. The inside of my brain feels physically abused by the level of effort expended in my bout for survival, and the creative side suffers for it. Word retrieval is non-existent, nor could I think of a good idea to save my life even if it would help stop the monster after me. Nothing has improved the situation. I imagine even if I were to leave the cabin and flee home, I would be followed and inevitably murdered when the killer no longer finds amusement in my misery. The best I can do now is stay out of sight, dwell in my basement cave, and complete the mission that led me here in the first place. The book needs to be finished above all else. As I write this, I hear footsteps overhead on the wood floorboards. This person is no longer hiding it. He or she is now simply waiting for me to come out. Yet I remain one step ahead. Fortunately for me, I have a bathroom down here, as well as every bit of food in the house, and plenty of single malt. If all else fails, maybe it will grow bored and bring mischief to the next house in line, wherever that is. Every so often the doorknob jiggles, knowing full well the door is locked, but just reminding me how hopelessly trapped I am. My thoughts are consumed, and the only subject matter I have been able to write is about this experience. As a fiction writer, maybe this makes sense to do. October 6th. My mental state is in decline. I have absolutely no recourse. The face I see in every dark crevice of the cabin has taken residence inside my eyelids when I try to finally rest. The severity of this obsession cannot be healthy, nor would I imagine it to be incredibly productive either. Something else has come to my attention. Something I can't definitively prove, of course, but it seems my assailant has access to my mind. It sounds insane, even more so now that it has been officially recorded. Yet I know what I know, and this monster is ahead of me every step of the way. Each thought I have gets intercepted from my brain to paper and acted out for its amusement and my anguish. Whatever I fear, it exploits. Wherever I stare, it appears. If I look toward the door at the top of the stairs, within a couple seconds there will be a knock. If I pick a location to stare at on my ceiling, any spot at all, the monster will tap its foot on the floor above. Once, twice, 3 times like clockwork. Every time. This is a nightmare. Only I am very much awake, unfortunately. It pains me to say for fear of it coming true. Although I have already thought it so, it is too late anyway. I don't believe I'll be walking out of here alive. Will I starve to death before the killer finally makes a move? Or do I try to run through the woods like escaping prey? What is the use of worrying either way? I was bested before I even arrived here. This person, this creature, is planned for every possible outcome, and I am horribly outmatched. Well played. October 7th. Fear has taken root so deeply I cannot control the shakes. My muscles ache, my stomach is full of rocks. The dizziness could either be from utter terror or my eyes frantically darting around the room to catch the attacker in the act. I don't remember when or how this happened, but my left arm has 4 deep gashes running diagonally below the wrist. During my sleep, possibly, although I didn't wake. Was I drugged? More psychological warfare for toiling. Who is this beast? I thought it human before, but my focus has shifted to a demon attack. This journal may soon turn into a first-hand account of an exorcism. If only I can remember the details. At the very least, this horrific experience will result in world-class material, a lesson taught to me by countless mentors before. Everywhere you look, there's something to see, especially with a writer's mind. The silver lining in the sacrifice. Hours passed between notations. The scratching of pen to paper in the journal is deafening. Each keystroke on the novel seems to act as a rally cry, where every time I get on a roll typing, something goes wrong immediately thereafter. Excessive knocking, breathing down my neck. This entity does not wish for me to recount our game of cat and mouse because it thrives on secrecy. I know it. Sharing this information with others would expose its strengths and, furthermore, weaknesses. Methods of attack, mostly through the shadows, picking away at my mental fortitude like dripping water dissolving stone. Though truth be told, that stone feels a lot more like sand the previous few days. Night has fallen. Darkness begets silence, begets dread. I wish I could do anything else at this time, but I must deliberately write lightly enough so as not to arouse suspicion of activity. Lights off outside means no light in my basement cave, both comforting and anguishing. The attacker could be standing right behind me, to my side, or smiling a sinister smile from behind my work, mocking me. My obsessive habits of checking every corner are also useless. I could bump into the monster any time I move. Even walking into the restroom is perilous. The shining light of hope in the blackness is that I won't see my death coming. I wish you well, I think to myself, but I don't actually believe it. My fate is sealed regardless of my hopes. I wish for you peace and comfort, but I don't anticipate that happening, not in my current state. I wish for closure, that which may come sooner than later, I'm afraid. At least I will know. Sleep. I wish for restful and restorative slumber, but my body is pumping with enough adrenaline to keep me awake for several more weeks. potentially throughout my stay here. Thus, I wait. Wait. Pray for morning light. October 8th. I found him. I've found him. After ruthlessly struggling for days and nights and weeks on end. Or week? I have found the rotten bastard hiding within my wall-mounted mirror, which I believe to be a trick mirror. In truth, a window into a hidden room. It is a he after all, at least externally, has my face, also part of the illusion to confuse my better sensibilities. We shared a stare down, although he fled once I took a swing at him. Now this deception lies on the floor and staring up at me with 30 faces, even more exposed. This is it. The war ends today. I yanked the heavy lamp from my bed's end table and crushed every piece on the floor bearing his face, then shattered those remnants throughout once more until they reached a fine dust. No more faces. No more insight. Good morning to me. A subconsciously revealing slip. Breakfast time rolls around and I nibble on scraps with a mouth drier than the Atacama. Afraid, but otherwise prepared for any outcome after a lengthy imprisonment within these walls. All is quiet until I am struck with my writing chair and knocked to the ground, unconscious for a moment's time. He stands his foot across my throat while I cling to life with my eyes shut. It feels as though his foot resting on the ground is lifted to balance his full weight upon my neck to snuff me out. My eyes jolt open. No one is there. Breath comes labored and pained, but I have escaped once again. For now. I wonder if it'll hurt. Not physically. My physical being already hurts from the attack, but on a deeper level. Will it hurt? Beside the fact, I have been hurt many times before, but this will be the first and only time feeling the specific sensation. Oh, I hope it feels like nothing. I have been through enough. As I write this, finishing my telling of the story that has happened to me here, footsteps approach from behind. A hand sets down on my right shoulder to remind me of my limited life left, but otherwise seems to be allowing me to complete relaying the sentiment. This is it. My time has come. Whosoever finds this journal shall know my tale, and how I met my end at the hands of a murderer, a shadow creature unseen but deadly as any. My every fear come true, every thought manifested right up until the end. My written word, autobiographical as this demon followed it down to every detail. I could nearly be persuaded into thinking I caused my own demise after a lifetime of creating morbid stories from the pits of my own mind. He is tapping his fingers now, urging me to hurry and accept what lies ahead, whatever that may be, which I will be unable to scribe. It is my time. Godspeed. What do you think? Do you like it? A teenage boy and girl peer around the room inquisitively. Yes, I like it. I want this room, the girl announces first. You really want to stay in the basement? Their mother asks. Anything to give me some alone time from him. She sneers at her brother. It was a long enough car ride already. This'll be nice. Whatever you wish, her dad mutters, grabbing his son by the shoulder and leading him back upstairs. Are you sure this is what you want? Might be awfully lonely down here, the mother speaks at last. I do. The privacy is just what I need so I can keep working on my stories. I know, and I'm happy to see you pursuing your dreams. That's one of the reasons we chose this place, you know. Several famous authors have stayed in this cabin before. The mom grins. You know where we'll be. Let us know if you need anything. She turns and walks back upstairs. The teenage girl wanders around the basement with satisfaction, enjoying the prospects of her new home for the next week. On the center of the bed lays a leather-bound book, worn and aged, but immediately drawing her in as a budding writer herself. It looks like a journal. She slowly drags her index and middle fingers over the cover inquisitively and flips it open. It pains me to admit as a veteran author, but my writing has taken a horribly unproductive turn over the last several months. She reads aloud from the first page.